Let's now look at the process involved in creating users. To create users, there are two different tools that you can use. Both of these tools are found up here under the Tools option in the Server Manager. Once you click on the Tools option, you have an Active Directory Administrative Center, and you also have Active Directory Users and Computers. Both of these tools can be used to create users. Let's look at the Administrative Center first. When we click the Administrative Center, this is what comes up. The first step to creating a user in the Administrative Center is to find my domain over here on the left. The domain I'm using is the random domain. We can double-click that, and this brings up the tool here to allow us to create different types of objects. One of the objects we can create is the user object. So let's go ahead and click the users here. This gives us a list of the existing users and groups in this domain. To create a new one, we come over here to the New option on the right and click that, and then click the User option that comes up. This brings us to the User Creation tool. In this case, we'll name our user User1. So we type user here, and for our last name, we'll call the user 1. We also need to go ahead and tell the computer what the login name for that user should be. In this case, I'm going to set the login name to user1 with a numeral this time. Finally, we need to go ahead and set the password and then confirm it. The password I'm going to use is simply password1. One thing to remember about the password is you need at least one capital letter and a number. Before I click OK, there's one other thing I would like to point out. Over here on the right side, we have password options. By default, this option is set to user must change password at next logon. We want to go ahead and leave that in there. Now we can go ahead and click OK. To verify that user1 exists, we can come down here and we can see user1 is highlighted right here in the center portion of the Administrative Center. Aside from the Administrative Center, there is another tool we can use as well. So let's go ahead and close the Administrative Center and bring up the other tool. As you remember, the other tool I mentioned was the Active Directory Users and Computers. Let's go ahead and click that and open up that tool. When we open up this tool, we get this window. Just like with the Administrative Center, we need to come over here to the left and find the domain we're using. In this case, again, it is random domain. You can double-click that, and it will expand it out, showing different components or objects in this domain. Right now, we are interested in user objects. So let's double-click users, and this shows us all the different users that are in this domain right now. Since we created the user1 in the Administrative Center, you can see it down here at the bottom in the Users and Computers tool as well. Since we've created the user1 already, let's go ahead and come up here to Users and right-click and click New. Once we have New up, we can come down here and find User. Since we want to create a user, let's go ahead and click that. This brings up a new object box. You'll notice that this new object box is quite a bit different than the one that we saw in the Administrative Center. Go ahead and this time we'll call our user User2. So our first name will be User, and our last name will be 2. We also need to set a login name for this user, so let's use the login name user2 with the number 2. Now we've done this, we can click Next. Again, we need to set a password and confirm that password. The password we're going to use here is going to be the same with the last one. We're going to call it password 01, and then we need to confirm that. You'll also notice that we have the password options here, just like I showed you in the last screen. In this case, we want to go ahead and keep the user must change password at next login checked on. Now click Next, and then click Finish. As you can see, we now have user2 as a domain object as well.